But there's a, sorry, there is no sound yet in the slideshow. Oh, okay.
For you. Sure.
Hold on.
Ooh, what kind is this?
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Windsor District Labour Council and United Way, welcome to the 2021 Labour Appreciation event featuring the presentation of the annual Charles E. Brooks Award. My name is Mario Spagnuolo, and I'm the interim president of the Windsor and District Labour Council and the local president of the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario. Thank you for joining us tonight. Before we begin, and in the spirit of our journey to reconciliation, we'd like to honor the truth of our shared history and acknowledge that our region is located on the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe and the Ottawa and the Potawatomi. For those of us in Leamington, we acknowledge the traditional territory of the Caldwell First Nation. We are grateful for the opportunity to live and work here and are thankful for the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. We also recognize the contributions of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples who have who have and continue to live in these communities. We are committed to acknowledging and appreciating the Indigenous people's historic connection to this land and aspire to be an ally by raising awareness of our Indigenous partners and communities. It is important to atone for the colonial theft and genocide that took place and the oppression of Indigenous peoples that continues today. This acknowledgement is one small part of our journey moving forward, and we are dedicated to listening to, learning from, and collaborating with, and elevating the voices of Indigenous communities and partners. We are committed to weaving this learning into our policies and practices on an ongoing basis. Please take a moment to recognize the land on which we gather and to reflect upon the journey to reconciliation with the Indigenous peoples of this land. Thank you. I'm honored to be here tonight as we pause to celebrate you, our Labor community, and Elizabeth Haw, the recipient of this year's Charles E. Brooks Labor Community Service Award. Tonight is a very special night, but we acknowledge that it looks a little bit different than our events in the past. Being online can make it tough to connect during a special event. So we want to take a moment to encourage everyone to visit the chat box on the side of the screen and let us know your name, your local, your organization, and throw in some ideas and thoughts of congratulations to our recipient, Elizabeth Haw. I do want to note that this event will be recorded, shared by email following this event, and available on United Way's website. It will also be available on the United Way website. If you're comfortable, please turn on your screen so that we can see each other, but please make sure that your microphones are muted. And if you're on social media, please tag @LaborWindsor and @UnitedWayWE to join the conversation, and use the hashtag Brooks21 when you put up your social media posts. Since we aren't seeing each other in person tonight, we wanted to kick off the event tonight to share some pictures that we've collected of union members from across our community. These pictures show just how much the labor community cares, giving all that they've got to support and advocate for others. Let's watch the video now. Thank you.
And so we're hoping we're planning on doing that actually as well. Yeah. So things like that traditionally we've done, we try to keep those things going anyways.
Wow, what a great video. Windsor-Essex County is well known for our strong labor movement and our many community relationships. The Windsor District Labour Council and our local unions know that positive relationships and community support moves us towards a more just society. We cannot thank you enough for your leadership, advocacy, compassion, and support. Before we continue, I do want to recognize some of our special sponsors for tonight's event. The Guardian Board of Unifor, who provided a donation to purchase wine as part of our event package. I also want to recognize QP82 and 543 for sponsoring this event to help make it more festive for our virtual guests by supporting the event packages. I'd also like to recognize Cooper's Hawk Winery for providing us with a special discount for this event. And finally, I'd like to recognize several of the Brooks Hayes family who are here tonight, as well as one of our local dignitaries, Brian Massey, MP of Windsor West. Thank you for joining us. I'd also like to mention that both Brian Massey and Percy Hatfield shared special certificates for Elizabeth in recognition of her award this evening. And now we'd like to invite Chris Ramsaroop, our keynote speaker, to share his address. Chris was chosen in collaboration with our award recipient, Elizabeth Haw, someone who inspired her as an activist. Born in Trinidad and Tobago, Chris is an instructor at the University of Toronto in Caribbean Studies, an instructor of the Migrant Workers Clinic in the Faculty of Law at the University of Windsor, and is the co-founder and organizer with the activist group Justicia for Migrant Workers, a grassroots collective that has been organizing with migrant workers for nearly 20 years. Please join me in welcoming Chris.
Greetings, comrades. So usually I speak really fast. I usually speak off the cusp, and I usually don't comb my hair. So I'm going to try to not do all three tonight. Okay. So I'm just going to read from my notes. I want to thank you this evening for permitting me to be your keynote speaker. The issue of racial justice, migrant justice, requires a tough and thorough conversation. It's difficult to understand a community that's often ignored, erased, and silenced. For our organization, which is Justice for Migrant Workers, we have been in your backyard for over 20 years. Yet I'm sure most of you have never heard of us, nor know what our work is. It's not your personal shortcoming or your failure that you do not know about the conditions or what migrant workers are facing. We have an overarching mythology of our agricultural industry based on the myth of the family farm. Go into supermarkets, watch a TV ad, listen to the radio, or watch the current news. We create an idea of food and what our food system is that I would argue is a lie. People of color are not seen except as labor for their hands. Politically, economically, and socially, they are disenfranchised as a result of a myriad of legal exclusions. Our state policy subjects workers to differential status that you and I enjoy. Temporary is a misnomer. Tell me, how can we tell someone that they are temporary when they spend the better part of 1, 2, 3 decades working in Canada virtually year-round? Tell me that at this point, I've met grandfathers, fathers, sons, and daughters working in the same workplace under virtually the same conditions that I saw when we began organizing 2 decades ago. For all of us, COVID exposed the underpinnings of the crisis in our agricultural system. It became apparent to many of us. It wasn't that something was not right in our own backyard. Why are workers getting sick? Why are workers dying? Why are workers who live and work in our community not allowed to leave their farms and living under a virtual curfew, while their Canadian comrades are not subject to the same restrictions? As workers went hungry, they became sick during the quarantine period. It was a very small group of people who risked their own well-being to ensure that migrant workers would not starve. Elizabeth, who we honor tonight, played a pivotal role during this crisis. While I can discuss the theoretical frameworks that enable the exploitation of migrant workers, Elizabeth was able to do something very different. She focused on workers' humanities. What she did was simple yet very, very powerful. Well, many people view migrant workers as outsiders, foreigners, non-residents. For Elizabeth and many others who stepped up to assist, she reframed it as workers, as not outsiders, but as members of our communities. As members of our community, when they are in crisis and when they are in trouble, we get together to help our friends and our families in their time of need. Each and every week, Elizabeth and a dedicated group of people work together, in many cases when employers and mainstream organizations such as the Red Cross were hostile to these acts of solidarity. Despite their opposition, they persisted and built a network of workers and allies to meet the needs of workers when no one else did. However, for myself, Elizabeth is special not for what she did during the pandemic, but for her solidarity that she has shown for us for over 10 years. 10 years ago, we marched for 12 hours from Leamington to Windsor during our first pilgrimage to freedom. There were approximately 150 of us, mostly migrant workers, very few members of the local community, who showed their support during this historic event. When no one would march with us, Elizabeth was there, and she's continued to work with us to build with workers through celebrations, through birthdays, through baby showers, through dinners, through mourning deaths for our fallen comrades. Elizabeth continues to be there with us. Now, I want us to think about Elizabeth's work as not an act of charity, but as an act of solidarity, an act of building a base. It's exposing the hypocrisy of our food system. How in the 21st century, those who are the foundation of our food system go hungry, while the captains of industry continue to prosper by amassing wealth. As many of you already know, the local agricultural industry is expanding at an exponential rate. Across the United States and Mexico, local greenhouses from our area are expanding their global footprint on the backs of Black and brown workers from the global South. Our immigration laws restrict mobility, and our labor laws undermine the true value, but denying them wages and benefits that they deserve. Racism is central to understanding how our labor and immigration laws work together to create a system of unfree labor, a system that we all benefit from. The plantation system is not a relic of the past. We continue to live in a 21st century plantation system where we undermine workers by deplorable housing and living conditions, and we devalue ourselves by enabling a food system that is held captive by a few very wealthy people who are driven by profit rather than by the needs of our community. Our community must include migrant workers. Our community deserves to stay in how our food is produced and in whose interest it's produced in. Paramount to this is that workers who toil in our background cannot be seen as outliers, but central to an equal democratic process of decision-making for future decisions of our food. While it may not seem intentional that our food system of agriculture, labor are all racialized workers, to me it's not. It's not a coincidence that the same communities that were endured the legacies and ravages of colonialism and the legacies of slavery and indentureship continue to be the backbone of our industry under conditions which are very reminiscent of the past. It is our responsibility to heed the calls of workers and follow the example of the people like Elizabeth and work towards the goals of emancipation and transformation to develop a system that values all workers and their families across the food chain. This is not a small task, my friends, but it's a burden that we must undertake. For those workers who've been injured, who've died, and who've been deported or repatriated, disbarred, we must honor their sacrifices so we strive where all workers are courted with decency and respect. While many of you do not know us, our main objective is to chip away at this lopsided system. To date, we continue to expose deplorable housing and living conditions, organize protests and caravans, provide emergency supports for workers, and meet their needs for housing. To support injured workers, workers recently terminated, and those facing going to be sent home. Undertaking cutting-edge legal challenges, as we are currently doing for 54 workers who were racially harassed and intimidated and persecuted by the Ontario Provincial Police during a DNA sweep near Tillsonburg, Ontario. We'll continue to do our work on the margins. I invite you to build on what Elizabeth and many others have undertaken locally, to lay the necessary foundation to break the invisibility and the erasure, break and dismantle the mythology of our agriculture industry, ensure that workers are seen as equals, not property. Nola, Ruby, and the next generation deserve nothing less than a society We've learned the mistakes of the past for a future where we all are free. Thank you very much. Peace.
Thank you, Christopher. What an excellent keynote address. Your words, your advocacy, and your words for those who don't have a voice is inspiring, and I respect you. Good evening. My name is Beverly Becker, and I am the chair of the United Way's Board of Directors. On behalf of the Board of Directors, we want to thank the Labour community for all that you do to support children and families in this wonderful community we call home. Over this past year and a half, our community has been through a lot. But as we know, the residents of Windsor-Essex County are extremely resilient. And while there have been many, many difficult times throughout the pandemic, there have also been many bright spots. And those bright spots are due to people stepping up to help each other, coming together to volunteer and support people who need a helping hand, helping one another at a time when we need it the most. We're grateful for the support of our Labour community, for the programs and services you provide in our community. You are always there to help, and we are very grateful for your dedication and commitment to social justice, helping those in need. And that's what tonight is all about, a time to reflect on the powerful force of Labour community and the legacy of Charlie E. Brooks. Charlie Brooks was a leader. He raised standards. He was instrumental in bringing our Labour participation with United Way to one of the highest in Canada. Charlie's legacy continues to inspire us all to work together for the good of the community as he did. I would like to take a moment to once again recognize the Brooks Hayes family who are here with us tonight. Thank you for joining to celebrate Charlie's legacy and celebrate this year's recipient. Tonight, the Charlie E. Brooks Community Service Award will be presented to Elizabeth Ha, OPSEU Local 154, for her dedication, passion, and drive to support others. For over 40 years, many outstanding individuals have been recognized with this honor. Let's take a moment to reflect and recognize the past recipients. What an incredible list of dedicated leaders in this community. We should be so very proud. On behalf of the Windsor and District Labour Council and United Way, we are honored to recognize Elizabeth Ha from OPSEU Local 154 as the recipient of this year's Charlie E. Brooks Award. Elizabeth takes action in a number of roles locally, regionally, and provincially with the Windsor and District Labour Council, Ontario Public Services Employees Union, and the Ontario Federation of Labour. She is a community activist at heart, devoting her time as the first president of OPSEU Local 154, the chair of OPSEU Provincial Human Rights Committee, the vice chair of the OPSEU Coalition of Racialized Workers, the OFL Equity Vice President, and the WLC Executive, and a member of the advisory board of Our Times Labour magazine. Elizabeth is also the devoted mom to Nola and Ruby, teaching her children that serving your community is important and necessary. She is a voice for change and strives to empower racialized workers by promoting workers' rights and social justice, and advocating for corrective action on policies, laws, and regulations. She is especially known for her compassion and conviction to support local migrant workers. As a member of the Justice for Migrant Workers, she collects and delivers food, clothing, and personal care for workers and organizes community dinners, workshops, vigils, and Day of Dead ceremonies, as well as demonstrates championing for their rights. Before we invite Elizabeth to say a few words, we'd like to congratulate Elizabeth and share a short video showcasing her work in the community. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Elizabeth Ha.
Thank you. I should not have watched that video and I'm gonna get all mushy. I want to also begin by acknowledging that we are all on Indigenous land that has been inhabited by First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples from the beginning. I am on land surrounded by water that is honored by the wampum treaties agreements between the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenni, Lenape, and allied nations to peacefully share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. Specifically, I want to acknowledge the presence of the Three Fires Confederacy, Ojibwe, Ottawa, Potawatomi, and Huron-Wendat peoples. As a settler, I am grateful for the opportunity to be here, and I thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years, long before today. We as a community and individuals must continue to educate ourselves and raise awareness using our platform and privilege. We must commit to learning, unlearning, and amplifying the stories and voices of Indigenous peoples. As settlers, we all must commit to make the promise and the challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our communities, and in particular, to bring justice for murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls across our country. Today, I am extremely honored to accept the Charlie E. Brooks Award. I have attended many Charlie Brooks Awards dinner, and I remember watching the amazing leaders in our community receiving this award, but I never imagined I would be receiving this award myself. If I was given this award because of the work that I've done in the past 2 years advocating and supporting migrant workers, then this award really belongs to every single person that made it possible for me to do this work. This award goes to Justice for Migrant Workers for advocating and building a relationship with workers for over 20 years. This award is for every single person that volunteered to deliver food, prepare food, load boxes into cars, drove to Windsor to Leamington, watch my kids when I had to drive to a farm in the middle of the night, made a donation, collected clothes, or made face masks for workers. This award is for the 2 kids that sold pop and chips this past summer to raise money to buy food for farm workers. This award is for our community for stepping up when our government failed to protect essential workers that left their families in another country to put food on our tables during a pandemic. I want to thank my union, OPSEU, the Ontario Public Service Employees Union, for their support to allow me to be able to do this work. I want to thank the labor movement, the unions across Ontario during this pandemic. They all showed up and volunteered, brought food to farms with me. I want to thank everyone that is here today. I want to thank Chris for everything he's done. And I know that it's been difficult. It's been a difficult year, but you've always put others first. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for always being there for me, for being there for my kids, staying on the phone with me as I drove home in the middle of the night so I didn't fall asleep. Listen to me cry about what I saw on a farm. You have been an amazing friend and a pretty cool uncle to Nola and Ruby. I want to give a shout out to Tracy Ramsey. Tracy has worked so hard to collect food, collect PPE, made so many trips from Windsor to Leamington, bringing things to workers, advocating for them. Tracy, thank you for all that you do for workers and everyone in Windsor-Essex. I should have turned my phone off. I want to say a special thank you to the two most important people in my life, my mini-me's, Nola and Ruby, for putting up with me. Nola and Ruby, thank you for helping me deliver food. Thank you for helping me sort out clothes for the workers. Thank you for giving up your weekends to make that trip to Leamington. I know it's not fun, and I know those long trips were hard, especially when you both get car sick so easily, but you did it. And I am so, so proud of you. And I am honored to be your mother. COVID has definitely put a spotlight on what's happening to migrant workers. It has shown us that the abuse and exploitation of migrant workers is not in some faraway country, in some place far, far away on the other side of the earth. It's actually right here. It's happening right here in our own backyards of Windsor and Essex. Our community was ground zero in the struggle to demand justice for migrant workers. When we saw this, not only did we get angry, but we decided to do something about it. That's what we do in Windsor-Essex County. We've always been a community that supported one another. We have each other's back. Migrant workers live and work here. They are a part of our community, and it is time our government recognizes that. Workers are still getting sick. Workers are still living in crowded and unsanitary housing. Workers are still not provided PPE. When workers are quarantined, they still do not have enough food or culturally appropriate food. Workers are still being denied medical attention when they are injured. Workers are still denied healthcare when they are getting sick. We would never allow this to happen to anyone in any of our workplaces. So this should not be happening to workers that we are calling essential. When we say an injury to one is an injury to all, we must mean it. I am grateful for our community and all the clothes and food that we've collected, but this is just a Band-Aid to what's happening. We must keep this conversation going. We must keep focused on what the government is doing. They're ignoring these workers and they're allowing them to work in these conditions. On the way home one night, my daughter asked me, she said, "Mama, why are all the farm workers Black and brown people?" It was a difficult question to answer. So I'm telling you this, and I'm asking you, how would you answer that question? I want to close by sharing a quote from Charlie Brooks. "Like twigs, we can be broken one by one, but together we become a bundle that nothing can break." Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. What a powerful speech. And The work that you have done to support migrant workers is really, truly inspiring. Congratulations on this very well-deserved recognition. It's clear you're passionate about the work you do, and it's so important that you are giving voice to those who don't have one. So on behalf of United Way, congratulations and thank you for all that you do. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lorraine Goddard, and I'm the CEO for United Way, Windsor-Essex County. As someone who has worked in the not-for-profit sector for many years, I know just how powerful and generous our labor community has been. And that support hasn't stopped. Over the years, I've witnessed the labor community go above and beyond through volunteering, advocating, fundraising. It's part of your DNA. Being committed to social justice and to support those in need. On behalf of United Way and to all the many people across our community who have benefited from your support, thank you. We are incredibly proud to partner with the Windsor and District Labour Council in our efforts to support our community. United Way and the labor community share many of the same values, including social justice and equity. And that's why this partnership is so special and meaningful. In Windsor-Essex County, thousands of children and youth have been experiencing poverty, which has left them far behind their more affluent peers. These children and youth face many barriers to success, such as fully participating in school, combating hunger, mental health issues, social isolation, just to name a few. And we know the pandemic has made things even more difficult for them. We know that some of these children are now falling even further behind as a result. And honestly, we cannot let that happen. When you support United Way, you're investing in a cradle to career strategy. That means that your donation is supporting vulnerable children and youth from the time they're born until they find a career. Our vision is that a generation from now, Windsor-Essex County is a prosperous community where all children have the ability to achieve their dreams and reach their full potential. We believe that the clearest pathway out of poverty is through education. And thanks to your generosity, we are able to support children and their families in many ways, providing food programs, mental health counseling, in and out of school supports that include academic support, recreation, mentoring, all the things that children need to succeed. We're excited to share that our On Track to Success program, which goals are to increase high school graduation and post-secondary attendance among youth who experience poverty, has expanded into downtown Windsor. We're also layering in new supports for Black students through the UGIMA initiative. We know that youth in our On Track to Success program who attend post-secondary programs are often the first in their families to attend, and this creates unique stress on the students. To support them and ensure they remain in post-secondary programs, we established in partnership with St. Clair College and the University of Windsor, the On Track On Campus program, which provides additional supports for these students during their first year of post-secondary education. I see the difference that your donation is making in the lives of children, youth, and families every day. I see students who are empowered, more confident, and inspired. I watch as families learn and grow together. It's an amazing thing to witness, and that difference would not be possible without you. So I'd like to share with you tonight one of my favorite videos. It's Amber's story, a proud graduate of our On Track to Success program. Her story is so inspiring. I know that it will affirm your support to United Way is a good investment. We thank you for creating opportunities for local youth like Amber. And we hope that you will continue to support United Way so the many other Ambers across our community have the same chance to grow into independent and successful adults.
currently at Wilfrid Laurier University. I'm studying geography, community engagement, and Indigenous history, because those are all aspects of things I've been passionate about since I was a kid. I'm going to do a master's program for urban planning, but geography is like a really great way to enter that field, and I'm just really passionate about it. And my first year was absolutely incredible. Like, people say, oh, high school is the best 4 years of your life, but I have to disagree. I think the first year of university really saw a lot of personal growth. I got involved on campus. I was the community outreach coordinator person in charge for my entire building, and that was just something I found to be one of the most both nerve-wracking and exciting experiences of first year. Getting to run events, getting to see community members in a community I hadn't grown up in. So that was just it was a new environment for me, and I'm very thankful for the program because I never would have known I like community engagement so far if I hadn't been a part of this program. When you're in school, a lot of teachers talk about college and your future and stuff, which is good. But then you think about your own situation at home and you're like, we don't even have money sometimes for groceries. How are we ever going to be able to afford going to school and paying for books and all these things? And when you're a kid, you just don't understand why other kids really get those things and you don't. But it was just very stressful for me, I know, as a kid, because I always felt like I wasn't at the same level as other students. I'd never get to see the success that they would, simply because I didn't have the opportunities as a child as they did. You kind of internalize it when you grow up in that environment, that it's somehow your fault and that's why you can't succeed. Program's very helpful in the sense that it provides the financial and it provides the tutoring, but you also meet so many leaders and so many people who believe in you that you didn't have before. The On Track program has helped me so much to become myself, to become the best version of me, and to just have a growth mindset. That's one of the best things they taught me too, was that you can always move forward. You don't have to look back at your situation and be like, this held me back. You can be like, this is what happened and this is how I improved from that situation. I think the program has been the biggest influence on my life out of anything, really, because I've seen so much personal growth from the opportunities I've been provided. I've seen how the support has changed me emotionally as a leader. Like, my sponsors, I couldn't be more thankful for. I wouldn't be where I am today without them. I wouldn't be where I am today without the program. I would tell other On Track to Success students to not be afraid. I know Liam puts a lot of opportunities on your plates, and I know it feels very overwhelming at times because you feel like, this isn't me, like, I don't know if I can do this, I've never had to do this before. Not only listen to Liam, but listen to what's in your heart. Forget about the fact that you come from this situation and just think about, where do I want to be? What do I see myself as? Take away the barriers. Where would you want to be as a person? What do you want to do with your life? Because that's the most important thing you have to listen to, yourself, without the barriers in your mind.
Wow, as a proud Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario member and as an elementary school teacher, I can tell you that Amber's story is especially meaningful. To see children reaching their potential is so very important. As a past board member of the United Way, I know that the work that is being done to support children and families in this community is critically important now more than ever. Thank you again, everyone, for celebrating with us today. Congratulations, Elizabeth, on your award this evening. And I'd like to send appreciation to each and every one of you for attending this evening. Have a great night. Stay safe.